A couple of weeks ago, we had our first attempt at a WWE 2K22 MyGM Speedrun world record. Now, it wouldn't actually be that hard to get a world record, as we kind of invented the speedrun ourselves. Other speedruns for the game did exist, but I think it's fair to say that the speedruns that were already out there were absolutely terrible. We wanted to make a speedrun challenge that was actually a challenge, and our rules were pretty simple. 1. You have to win the MyGM season. We've seen people playing through MyGM seasons in really fast times, but they didn't even win, so what's the point in that? 2. The draft has to be included. Drafting your roster is one of the trickiest parts of the challenge. You can't just skip that bit out. And 3, it has to be done on the hardest difficulty using the default draft pool, so there's no easy mode and no customizing the roster to make things easier either. The only other relevant rule was obviously that it had to be recorded and the video has to be shown in full without cuts. The time we set in our first video was 39 minutes and 21 seconds. Shout out to Eli in the comments section of our recent video that said they'd beaten our time with 37 minutes and 56 seconds, and they wanted to see if we could beat it. So that's what I'm attempting to do today. And one more thing before we get started, last time we did this, it was a live commentary. That means the voiceover was being recorded at the exact time that we recorded the run. This time I've mixed things up and the commentary has been done in post. That means I'm watching my run back and commentating over it, letting you know what was happening in moments where things were going really fast, and it also means I'm able to share useful tips and tricks that I employed that I wouldn't have had time to share in real time because I was concentrating so insanely hard with music blasting in my ears to keep me fired up throughout. It's going to be a good one, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so let's see how we're going to get on in this MyGM speedrun world record attempt. The first thing that I'm going to go in and do is choose my GM as always. Now remember, the timer doesn't start yet. The timer starts as soon as I lock in the game settings. So I choose my GM, my brand, I choose my opponent, and then we hit start game. That's when it starts, so I have to do the draft and every other part of the game right up until we find out who wins and loses. That is when the timer stops. So the first thing I've got to do, choose my GM, and as always, I'm choosing between Adam Pearce and William Regal. However, I reached the decision to actually not go with William and go with Adam. The reason for this is because if I could get a legend for free, obviously that would be useful, but what that would mean is I would have to go in, I would have to access the legends page, and I would have to make a decision on which legend I wanted to sign. That would make things trickier in the drafting process because I'd have to think about, well, who's my legend going to face? I would actually have to make a decision on which legend to sign, and I would then have to renew their contract at some point later in the season, so there'd be a conversation to have. So I wanted to avoid that, and I just went with Adam. Now, we go into the draft, and what I have to do here is be as quick as I possibly can. So almost no thought is going into this, but what I do, as soon as the draft pops up, I filter by stamina, and I just sign whoever's got the most stamina straight away. It ends up being Billy Kay, who's a very low popularity wrestler. And what I do then is I'm thinking in my head, well, Billy Kay is a heel fighter. I'm going to need a face bruiser to match up against her. And you can see how fast I'm going through this. So I immediately just signed the first face bruiser that comes up. I then just keep repeating this basically. So the next time I'm looking for whoever's got the most stamina and whoever pairs up against them. It's very hard to actually post-com this because obviously I'm going so fast. I'm putting very little thought into this other than who was the last person I drafted and who are they going to match up against. So I'm doing it in pairs, kind of. I'm picking someone, and then I've got to match someone to fight against them. The next person that I draft after each couple is paired up is just kind of whoever's got the most stamina. And I do just want to make sure I've got a little bit of variety, so I do make sure that throughout my draft I've got cruisers, giants, fighters, bruisers, and specialists. So I've got a real variety throughout. I want to draft 14 wrestlers in this. So I do make sure that I've got some cheap options, because if you just go for all the most expensive ones, you're not going to be able to get 14. But I already knew that because some of my earlier drafted wrestlers were on the cheaper side, the lower popularity side, I thought I'd be okay. So I didn't really focus on popularity in this. I didn't focus on star power or promo skill. It was almost entirely stamina. The reason that I focused on stamina so heavily is because I didn't want to be looking at stamina early on. I don't want injuries to deal with. I don't want to be even having to worry about that when I'm putting on my early cards. So what I'm basically doing is I'm sacrificing popularity. I'm sacrificing some star ratings in the show, early on at least, just for the speed. It is all about speed, obviously, in a speed run. So what I'm doing is I'm removing decision making. if I don't have to worry about the stamina of any of my wrestlers early on, I don't even need to look at it, basically. So that is my thought process. And you can see here that I'm building the first card, and the first card's quite important because it's going to shape all of our rivalries going into the first pay-per-view. So you can see that my plans for week 1 are basically just to get 4 title matches on. I want to get a good popularity boost straight away. So I want to have tag team champions, male and female, so they get an extra 10 popularity on 4 different wrestlers. I want to just put male and female title fights on as well, just to try and get us off to a good start, because I don't want to be looking at how we're doing each week. In fact, even now, I don't remember where I was winning, where I was losing, and obviously I'm not going to spoil the result of whether I actually win or lose this challenge. But I think it's an interesting save. You can see that whilst I'm acting fast, I am still taking a little bit of time just to make sure I'm not missing anything stupid, but it is very much in my mind that I have to be fast, and some mistakes are going to be made throughout. I make a mistake straight away here, and I forget to simulate the whole show, and I actually have to watch the first fight result come through. We can see the star rating of it was actually pretty good, but from here on in, I was pretty good at just making sure to skip and simulate as fast as I possibly could. We do go through week 1 with a narrow lead, a very, very slender lead. And then we just move on to building the second card. And I do just want to stress, at this point, it was just, well, let's just pretty much use the same fights we've already put on because we're building those rivalries up. Why not just make use of them? What we can do is get through that first pay-per-view. We're going to make the rivalries expire. And then we're going to get into the headache of trying to work out who's going to face off against each other in the weeks to come after that. Here's the interesting thing, right? You can make a rivalry go stale or burn out or be successfully completed after the first pay-per-view. But all you really need to do is get through that second pay-per-view, because then you can actually go back to your original rivalries for the final pay-per-view if you want. The bad thing with a speedrun attempt is that it's very hard for me to remember who was actually in rivalries with each other. So that's something that we've really got to deal with here. You can see that we're already 5 minutes into this challenge, and we're only just getting into the second show. So this is already going to be very tricky. But we do come through week 2, still with a narrow lead. At this stage of the speedrun as well, I'm not even thinking about using my power cards, my instigator card to increase my rivalries. I'm not thinking about using my title boosting power card, whatever that was called, I can't even remember. However, it was on my mind that I should try to get rid of the cards as soon as possible. Like, not actually as soon as possible, as in just put them all on straight away, but I wanted to remove the thinking time again, so I don't want to have in my mind the thought of thinking, well, I need to put this card on, I need to put this card on, or it would be good to use this in this week. It's all about removing decision making, in my opinion anyway, when you want to do a successful speedrun like this, where you actually have to use your brain. So you'll see I'm going into logistics and I'm just spam clicking, basically trying to buy and upgrade everything I can afford. And you see that a special promotion card does come up there, and I do buy it. The most overpowered card on the game. And I'm already actually thinking I'm probably going to use this just in the first pay-per-view. Again, just to make sure I don't overthink things. So, third week, we're simulating our shows, obviously, and my spam clicking doesn't pay off, and I accidentally sim another show. So, you'll see that seconds could be saved here and there throughout, but I do still keep the lead. And you'll see there that I accidentally annoy Rhea Ripley because I'm spam clicking so fast that I accidentally reject whatever request she asked to make. And that actually becomes a bit of a recurring theme throughout the speedrun. I do end up annoying quite a few of the wrestlers because I'm just clicking so fast that I don't really take in what they're asking me, what they're saying to me, and I'm just like, no, 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 no. Stop asking me questions. I've got a speedrun to do, okay? The biggest problem, I would say, with this speedrun attempt is that I really couldn't memorize who was in rivalries with who had already faced off against each other, what sort of shows we'd put on previously. That was definitely the biggest issue that I faced. You have so many different things to actually think about. It's a very simple game, but to actually like exploit it and make sure that you're doing the right things to beat it, you do have to obviously know what you're doing and put in a bit of thought as well. So when you're doing that at speed, it's easy to forget the things that don't quite matter as much, like who fought last week, for example. I just noticed there that I am failing the commissioner goal for whatever the goal was. One of my strategies, again, throughout this was to basically just not check the commissioner goal. If I did it successfully and I got a card for doing it, that's good. But yeah, most of the time I didn't check the commissioner goal. I could have missed out on some special promotions. That would have been really annoying if I did, but I guess I won't even know watching this back if I did or not because I very rarely accessed the actual page to show the commissioner goal. So that's something to think about as well. You'll see here that I do decide in week 4 that I need to pad the roster out a little bit, and I sign 2 jobbers. I go for Chester and Clint McDougal, 2 specialists, a heel specialist and a face specialist that can potentially face off against each other. They could pad out a future tag team. And I knew that I needed to do this because if you want to put on 2 tag teams at the first pay-per-view, you need like a roster of 16 people or something to fill out all the promo slots as well. So I didn't actually have enough wrestlers on my roster to be able to fill out my promos every week or to fill out the promos next week when we get to the first pay-per-view. So I signed 2 jobbers with the plan to sort of help me pad the card out, build up rivalries, rest some wrestlers, etc. You can see here that Rhea Ripley pops into my inbox and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, I've got to be careful here. I don't want to spam click. I don't want to click too fast. I want to make sure that I'm seeing what they're saying. I don't want to annoy them. So Rhea Ripley comes to me. She says, yeah, I want to run a main event match, please. And I'm like, well, I just annoyed her already. Whatever she asked of me, I can't quite remember. But I rejected it and she got really annoyed with me. So yes, Rhea, you can run a main event match. And then what do I do straight after that? I immediately forget that Rhea Ripley has to run a main event match. But it's okay. No, I moved the fights around. I decided to put a different fight on the main card. And then I look at Rhea Ripley and I forget again. And I put Charlotte Flair versus Toni Storm as the main event. Oh god, it's so hard to watch back. Genuinely, if you haven't tried one of these, which I know many of you won't have tried to do a speedrun, because, you know, timing it and stuff is a little bit difficult. And I actually find watching the content is quite fun as well, as opposed to just playing it. Perhaps I'm on my own in that, but there are certain games where I just really like watching other people play as opposed to play through. That isn't really the case for MyGM. I do like playing through myself, but obviously there's more than one of us that make videos on this channel. I don't know if many of you know that. I don't know if all of you know that. As you can see, I'm applying my special promotion card in the background here. But I do just want to ask, and let us know in the comments below, how many of you didn't know that there are more than one of us that make videos on this channel? Because there are so many people that comment as if it's just one of us. There are actually 2 of us that make videos, and DiamondLobby, we're a real gaming website, you know. We are a real thing, and who knows, there could be more people making videos in the future. But you can see, going into the pay-per-view, everything I said about filling the card out, I kind of ignored, and I actually only managed to put 1 promo on, but I did put the special promotion card on, which helped us to gain a narrow lead. I think we're about 40,000 fans in front at this point, but Jeff's stamina is low. Rhea's come to me moaning because I didn't give her the main event match, and Chester, he wants to, you know, do a GM interference that I say no to because I don't really like to do those if I don't have to. Now we have the first tricky part of dealing with the draft that we put together. Because one of the big tips that I always say, that I really harp on about, is making sure you have more than one of the same role and the same style. So what I mean by that is you don't really want one heel bruiser male fighter. You want two heel male bruiser fighters. The reason for that is because they're going to pair off against a face fighter, wrestler. Words are confusing me here. But basically what I'm saying is you want your first rivalries to end and be able to have a second rivalry lined up. This is where specialists are kind of useful, even though they kind of suck as well, is because what you could do is in weeks 1 to 5, you can have a fighter against a bruiser and a specialist against a specialist. Then in weeks 6 to 10, you can mix them up. So you can have your bruiser against a specialist and a fighter against a specialist. And then in weeks 11 to 15, you can go back to the original rivalries if you want, or you can put them in tag teams and stuff. But when you're acting at speed, it's much harder than that. And as I went through my draft, obviously, I was basically just looking at stamina. I was just making sure I had initial rivalries, but long-term rivalries was not a thought in my mind. Obviously, I had thought about it before starting the challenge, but I basically just reached the decision that what I would do is just focus on the first weeks and cross the rest of the bridge when I got to it. So you'll see that that is actually a really tricky part for me to deal with now because, you know, I don't really have a good mix of second rivalries I can build. But we're 6 weeks through, approaching the halfway point of the season, and I do still have a lead. Chester comes to me and he tells me a useful bit of information, which is that he loves Extreme Rules matches. This is good because I need every little boost I can get, and when my jobbers come to me that have decent stamina, I want to be able to put them into the fights that require more stamina and are going to get a better rating. Because if I put the jobbers into a regular fight, they're not going to get a very good rating, probably 1 star, 1.5 stars, whatever. If I can put them into an Extreme Rules match, they might deliver me a 2 star or 2.5 star. And that brings me on to another factor that is really hard with this type of challenge. When you are simming the entire show and not looking at the results, how do you know which fight went well and which fight didn't go well? Because that's not a trick question, by the way. You just don't know. So what you have to do is you have to obviously know the game inside out. You have to know what types of matches do well and what types of matches don't do well. And after that, you're pretty much relying on your gut. If you've seen my other videos before, you'll know that I'm relatively good at guessing what star rating any match is going to get. So I could put on R-Truth against Elias in the first match here. And I don't actually know what their rivalries are in game in this specific playthrough. But in a regular playthrough, we could say, well, they're fairly popular. Look, 61, 58 popularity. They might be like a level 2 rivalry. They're a perfect matchup of synergies, a tables match. That's probably going to be a 3-star fight. I'm pretty confident in that. But as you're rushing through a playthrough like this, and you actually can't look at the popularities too much, you're going off your gut, you're trying to remember what you've done previously, and yeah, as I say, it's just knowledge of the game and gut feeling, really. Because you don't have time to go back and look at which matches did well and which ones didn't. It's just kind of a unique challenge to the speedrun, I would say. You can see here that I'm absolutely desperate to put on Charlotte Flair against Toni Storm, even though they were already rivals in the first 5 weeks and their rivalry is on cooldown. So I'm taking a little bit of time thinking, what do I do here? Rhea Ripley only has 43 stamina. I actually can't put her in a fight, I don't think. I need to rest her, but she's a title holder. What do I do in this situation? And this is one of the rare times in the save where I'm kind of stuck. I decide to just put on Billy Kay against Tony Storm, and then try and do like call-outs and run-ins and stuff like that to keep the rivalries going. I would say the thing I was probably best at throughout this save was the logistical side of things. I was not always able to fully upgrade things, but I was pretty good at having money, being able to upgrade most of the logistics, and obviously remembering to actually put them on every week, because for those of you that don't know, logistics are massive. They give you show bonuses, they earn you fans. You have to get them where you can. And what I would add on to that as well is that it's actually really easy to build up the popularity of your low popularity wrestlers. So you can get bad wrestlers and build them into good cards. So you don't need to worry about signing too many legends. In this whole playthrough, spoiler alert, I don't sign a single legend. So you can have good results. Obviously, we don't know at this stage if I win or not, but we can already tell it's going to be close, right? I mean, we're already ahead and it's halfway through. Obviously, I've got all these problems to deal with, so it's going to be tricky, but you don't have to sign legends to run the AI close on the hardest difficulty. But if you were to do a playthrough where you weren't upgrading any of your logistics, I would say I actually think that might be impossible. Like, a lot of people drop challenge requests in the comments of our videos, and if you have a challenge you'd like to see, by the way, you're more than welcome to drop them in the comments below. But the challenges that I like doing are the challenges that are extremely difficult, but you have a chance of actually managing to win them. Now, what I mean by this is a challenge has to be viable. It can be extremely tough, and the tougher the better, really, but you have to actually be able to win it. So some people will drop a challenge in the comments that's like, oh, win without power cards. And it's like, well, that's quite hard, but if you've seen the last video that we did manage to win without power cards first attempt. Other challenges from the past, win with jobbers only, that was very difficult, and I'm not sure if that would actually be possible now due to the greater number of matches since the most recent update of the game. Something that wouldn't be possible is win with jobbers only without upgrading your logistics and purposely putting every match in the wrong order. Like, obviously you're not going to be able to win, because the whole point of these challenges is we're kind of showing you how to exploit the game, right? We're trying to show you, like, this is how you beat the game, and it kind of doesn't matter what restrictions you put on yourself, as long as you're doing the things that the game wants you to do to beat it. If you remove those things, as in the things that help you beat the game, like maxing out your logistics and stuff, it actually is impossible to win. Tamina comes to me here and she says she's sick of working for Stephanie, and I realise at this point, I'm like, oh, I made Stephanie my opponent? I didn't even realise. And the worst part is that wasn't part of the speedrun. Like, that was before I actually started the speedrun, obviously, because that's on the settings page. So that was quite funny that it took me 8 weeks, or 9 weeks even, to realise who my opponent was. But Tamina came to me and I was like, I actually think I need to sign Tamina. Like, that would be very useful for me for building new rivalries. The reason that I didn't is just because her stamina was too low. It was like in the 40s or 50s. I can't remember. It's already gone off screen now. But certainly if she was in the 60s or higher on stamina, I would have been snapping her up and then working a new rivalry with probably Io Shirai or with a jobber. I would have signed a new jobber and paired them up. You can see once again that I'm at this point where I'm just thinking, who is my rivalry going to be, and how do I not ruin my existing rivalries, and how do I still put good show diversity on? Because we are approaching the second pay-per-view here. Once we're done with that second pay-per-view, we kind of don't need to worry about rivalries anymore. Obviously, we do. We need to work out who our last rivalry is going to be. But once we have these ones done, it's all about just picking our last ones and going to WrestleMania with them. So this is the tricky spot right now before we get to that, where I'm trying to think, well, what rivalries do I want to expire at the next pay-per-view? And what other rivalries could we be building? You can see that I, once again, try and max out my logistics. I look in the power card store very quickly. Spoiler alert, no other special promotion cards come up in this run. So if you think that I'm going to cheese the game like I have in a couple of other playthroughs just by abusing the power of special promotion cards, which are very, very valuable, no, I don't buy any other special promotion cards. And obviously I already played my special promotion card at the first pay-per-view just to see how that would go. And so far it's given me a small lead, but things are close. And if we look at the timer here, I think we're in trouble, to be honest. It's week 10, and we're already at 23.5 minutes. So we're not quite 2/3 of the way through, because we've actually got to complete week 10 before we're 2/3 of the way through. And we do have to work out things like who the final rivalries are going to be and stuff. So it's going to be extremely tight on time. We've still got to build out this whole pay-per-view card as well. You'll see that I actually had to use a free advertising booking here because I was running the money so tight. I have only just noticed in the recording that I put the timer over the budget, which I do appreciate is really annoying. What I would say is that you'll notice throughout that I don't really buy any power cards. I think I only bought like 1 or 2 power cards throughout the whole thing. I don't sign any legends. And I only really upgrade the logistics that I can actually afford. So, you know, there's no funny business going on or anything like that. It's just where I happen to put the timer. And yeah, I've only just realised now that it actually covers the budget. That's quite annoying. Covers it perfectly as well. So Clint McDougal's just asked to go in a main event match. Am I going to remember to do it? That is the question, because so far I've been promising people things and not delivering. So I do think to myself, well, Clint wants to run a main event. Let's just put him straight in so I don't forget about it again. But it's going to be interesting to see if I actually go through with it and make it stick. I think Jeff Hardy also asked to be put in a different fight as well, so I think that's why I was looking at a random tag team where the synergies weren't perfect. I was just thinking, let's just get these in a fight, and oh no, I've moved them off the main event into the mid-card. Why? So I got given a To The Moon card because of the fact that the guy with the mop, whatever he's called, is doing quite well. And I tried to put the To The Moon card on, but I didn't have anyone with 60 or lower popularity, which was very surprising. It basically means that I've actually been managing the roster pretty well. I've been building up their popularity to a point where not a single wrestler on the roster has lower than 60 popularity. So To The Moon card is very valuable because it could boost someone from 60 to 75 popularity. But I couldn't actually use it at this stage, which was disappointing. Not just because I couldn't boost someone's popularity, but also because, again, I would need that thinking time. I would need to be thinking about, I need to remember to check if I can put this on next week or the week after, because as soon as I can play it, I want to be playing it because it has a lasting benefit. Like when you boost someone's popularity up, it has a lasting benefit because it gives you a better show, gives your show better ratings. It boosts their popularity as well if they're in more matches. So you can benefit from it in future weeks as well. So it was definitely on my mind that I need to be playing this To The Moon card at some point. And also, I've still got my other power cards as well. The Instigator card and the title fight card that boosts the match ratings of title fights. I'm going to have to play those soon because we're in week 11 already. You can see in the logistics here that the arena is probably the main thing that I was always trying to buy the biggest one of, because the arena is what delivers your profits. You have to be maxing out your arena wherever you can because they are so important for delivering profits. So that's why another impossible challenge basically would be like, oh, don't ever upgrade your arena, just fight in the school gym every week. Well, yeah, that would be a fun challenge, but it would just be impossible basically, I think. So Charlotte's come to me, she's demanded a rematch, and I've clicked too fast, and I've annoyed her as well, because I said, no, you can't have a rematch, even though I'd have probably been more than happy to give her one. And Rhea Ripley here has 99 popularity, and I think I just took like 5 seconds of time there just looking at it thinking, what has happened here? How? I don't even think I've ever had someone with 99 popularity. And I think the issue was that she might actually be the 1v1 and tag team champion at the same time. But I've had a double cost card applied to me here this week, and I've got issues with rivalries like that have expired or they're going stale, and I'm having to match people up that aren't quite perfect for what I would want to be doing. So with that in mind, you'll see that I actually decide to play my Fighting Champion card this week, which is a bit of a strange decision, I will admit. The reason that it's a little bit strange is because I only have 3 title fights on, not 4, so I'm not maximising what I can get out of it. But remember, 1, I have to be fast here. I can't be thinking about when the perfect time to play this is. I know this is a good time to play it. But 2, I'm dealing with money situation here. I've got a double cost card applied. I've got to be buying my logistics. You can see that I buy the big arena there. So what I do is I just think, well, I can get 3 title fights on this week. It's a pretty bad card in terms of rivalries and show diversity and stuff. So I just play the card. And this is going to be the first time I see how I did. So I gained 35,000. My opponent gained 24,000. So it seems like it might have been the right decision. I really don't know. I think it would have been better off to play it at Wrestlemania or at pay-per-view, but I just use it. And if you were paying close attention to the video, you'll see that I also used the To The Moon card as well. I used that on the only wrestler that I could, which was Raquel Gonzalez. And it gave her a really nice boost, actually, because she was bang on the 60 popularity limit for a To The Moon card. So it boosted her all the way up to 75, plus whatever boost she got from appearing in the last card as well. One thing I struggled with throughout in this speedrun was the tag team matches, because I found that the game wasn't being very friendly to me in terms of like adding in the opponents. I don't know, for those of you that have played this enough, usually you'll select your wrestler and it will sort of auto-populate the opponent. So you'll see there that I selected R-Truth and it auto-added Kushida in. Throughout the game, I just felt that it was a little bit annoying and I don't know the quite word to use, but it just didn't seem to be populating it for me in the way that it usually did. Perhaps it was just because I was doing things wrong, because I was focusing on speed so much. But I remember I was just constantly thinking, like, God's sake, why isn't this working? Like, please work, hurry up. You can also see here that we have a level 3 out of 4 rivalry that is stale. I don't know if this has been added in the latest update. I usually don't have issues with rivalries going stale and stuff, but obviously with the booking of these shows being so frantic and not being able to concentrate on what I was doing really, I was making mistakes. And I've never really noticed a rivalry going stale and being a level 3 rivalry. So what has happened there is it's gone to level 4. I've let it sort of cool down a bit because I didn't want it to go stale. It's dropped down to level 3 and still being stale. At least that's what I think happened. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm still watching this back in real time and it's very, very fast. And perhaps if you can stop and pause and rewind and stuff, it'd be easier to pick up. But I did just see that I gained 30,000 fans there. My opponent gained 20,000 fans, and it's actually looking like we might be able to do this. We've got 468 grand in the bank. We can max out our upgrades. We've got 2 weeks to go, but obviously I've already used my card, except for my Instigator card, which I decide to play this week because I just want to gain a bit out of my week 14. I want to get rivalries working in the best way possible. I want to boost the ones that are like level 1 to level 2 and level 2 to level 3 and so on. And I want to not just have it benefit me at WrestleMania. I want it to benefit me in week 14 and at WrestleMania as well. So I decided to play that, but as we've already established earlier in the video, I don't have any special promotion cards. I've now used my Instigator. I've already used my title fight card. I don't really have any other cards I could play. So it's very much in my mind that my opponent could come back and actually beat me late on here. Something that Ferg's had in a lot of his challenges is the AI beating him at WrestleMania. So he'll be leading 13, 14 weeks in and then lose at WrestleMania, which is extremely annoying, I can imagine. And I'm dreading this happening. I'm 34 minutes in at the minute. I'm looking at the clock thinking, I need to hurry, I need to hurry, I need to hurry. But I'm also thinking, what happens when I lose at WrestleMania? And obviously, it's going to be a good end to the video if I do, or maybe not. Who knows? Depends how much you like the channel, I suppose. But it's stressful, you know? You're watching the clock and you're thinking two things at the same time. You're thinking, I need to hurry because I want to complete this in the fastest time. But also, I need to hurry because if I lose, I don't want to have wasted even more time. Rhea comes to me and asks for a 50k bonus, and I just pay her because I already know that I've annoyed her a couple of times. And now what I need to do is build this card as fast as I possibly can because it's WrestleMania, it's the final week. We've got like a couple of minutes before we can actually set a record. So can we build this last card in like 2 minutes? It's going to be hard because it's WrestleMania, it's the most important show. We have to win. This isn't about just filling the card out and putting on the show because it's very much in my mind that Stephanie McMahon could come back and beat us. So I'm making sure I put on a good card here. I want to use up some level 4 rivalries. I want to make sure I've got tag teams, female fighters, male fighters, synergies, everything. I want this to be the best card it possibly can. And you'll see here some of the tag team issues that I was talking about where I was saying, what is going on? And I realise it's because I put The Miz in a different fight already. Jeff Hardy, I wanted him to fight at WrestleMania. I think he actually asked to fight this week. Can I work him into a different fight? Well, I guess we'll find out. And I actually just decided to put him back in with The Miz, it seems. I don't remember doing that. That's interesting. So we've got level 4 rivalry here, and we put that in the mid card. So for those of you that don't know at pay-per-view, you kind of want your first fight to be massive, you want your last fight to be massive, and the third fight can kind of be whatever you want it to be. So it can be massive, or it can be absolutely rubbish, but you don't really want it to be a middle of the pack fight. You want those to be the second and fourth fights. So I wasn't really sure how the level 4 table match rivalry would go, so I put it in the middle of the card. You see here, I put some charity appearances on, and then I just make the decision, you know what, let's not fill the rest of the promos out. Let's just rush this through, get it done. We've got 2 promos on. Let's confirm the booking, and let's just see if we can win. Time is looking good. We're on 36.5 minutes. We're going to sim this as fast as we can, and all we're looking for is the result to see if that number 1 ranking pops up, and it does. We stop the time. We see that we won 36 minutes, 35 seconds, 0.52 milliseconds, and we have the win in the bag. We completed the speedrun successfully because we won. Not only that, we set a massive time, 36:35, smashing the previous record, beating the record mentioned in the comments by a good, like, nearly a minute and a half. And oh my god, I was so happy that I managed to actually do this. You wouldn't even believe, even just watching it back now, I'm so relieved. That seemed hectic at the end there. And it just shows how hectic it was, that it was incredibly hard to even commentate on what I was doing. After the fact, I already knew what happened, and I still couldn't remember parts. Some parts were going so fast, especially the draft. I did try to share as much useful, actionable information as I could throughout this video. I know that it's not the most engaging video you've ever watched, but I hope you found it entertaining and valuable. If you have enjoyed the video, do hit the like button because it really helps us out as a small channel. If you got any questions, feedback, challenge suggestions or whatever, use the comment section down below. And if you're still not subscribed to the channel, by the way, do hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your day.